What's up, YouTube? Mr. La Messi here, and today is another beautiful day. It is Diablo 4 update. The notes, the September Diablo 4 update notes have arrived. So once again, they're doing this every single quarter. We're getting quarterly updates, and this is September's version. So I haven't read these yet. Per usual, we're going to do live reaction, jump right in, see what's up, give our feedback a little bit along the way, and then do kind of a review again at the end of it. So let's jump in. How's it going, chat? Y'all ready for this? Let's do it. To the Diablo community. That's us. They're talking to us, you guys. They literally put our name right there. Wow. Hello and welcome to a new installment of our quarterly Diablo 4 developer updates. We enjoyed hearing your thoughts on our last blog and have followed many of the discussions it kicked off within the community. It's very encouraging for us to hear that you appreciate the steady update cadence and the behind-the-scenes looks at our early work. We do. We're also excited by all the positive reactions we're seeing to the art, cinematics, and the addition of open-world gameplay to the Diablo franchise. I think there's a lot of cool stuff there. The team has poured over a lot of constructive feedback regarding the current direction of itemization. Here we go. Come on. And we're looking to give you an update on items later in the year. That's right. They said it was going to be in the fourth quarter, didn't they? Some of the progress we've made will speak directly to the questions we've seen raised in the community. So stay tuned. Dang. All right. Next time. I could be more excited to share details. In today's update, our lead system designer, David Kim, my boy, will take us on a deep dive into the ins and outs of the new skills and talent system. All right, sweet, still very important. We are currently playtesting the new systems, and the early feedback is super promising. I hope you enjoy it, and as always, we'll be following conversations on our forums as well as other community sites. Thank you for all your continued feedback and support in this journey as we make the game. Luis, game director. Beautiful. All right, skills and talents. Let's do this. Today we're going to look at skills and talents, a topic many of you have asked about. But first, quick update on the things that we've shared in our previous development blogs. Oh, okay, so they're actually going to talk about the items, the powers. Some of you let us know that the fantasy of ancestral, demonic, angelic power just isn't cool enough in the current version of the pitch. Duly noted. Another problem we identified was the ratio of effort to rewards. For example, in order to gain specific minor bonuses, players would most likely have to carry around several extra pieces of gear, each with different amounts of ancestral, demonic, angelic power on them. You would then need to constantly calculate each of these power levels of those items and compare with their overall power. It felt like an excessive amount of bookkeeping for the player. However, one thing we liked about the system was the gameplay of managing stats in a meaningful way to hit certain bonus thresholds that then make your items better suited for the playstyle you're going for. We need some more time for the iteration rework here and look forward to sharing more itemization in our next quarterly blog. Okay, so let's talk about this. This is something that I actually thought was an interesting idea, and I actually did like a lot. I like the ancestral, demonic, angelic, because I do enjoy there being this trade-off and this, do I want to equip this item or not, right? To me, it very much goes similar to the way of faster cast rate, faster hit recovery, whatever it is in Diablo 2, right? So you have your breakpoints for those. That's what these ancestral, demonic, angelic powers are. They are essentially breakpoints. So having 60 angelic power means nothing if the bonuses that you want to get come at 62 or 65 or whatever it is, right? And so I really like the idea because I think that's something that works super well in Diablo 2. I can understand what they're saying about kind of excessive bookkeeping, but I think there could actually be a really smooth balance on this, and that would be something that like isn't in Diablo 2, which is just kind of having a summation of it all very easily seen. So for instance, here, let's open up a quick paint, because you guys know I'm a big paint guy. Let me just like draw up something real fast, because I think this could actually be like
I think it's a very important thing and something that does really well. Oops, hold up. There we go. Paint time. So, for instance, let's say that you have your character sheet, right? And you've got your head space and your body, and we'll just pretend like there's only a few spaces. Okay. Right. So let's just go with like those spaces. So, where they have some like stats going on, if like in Diablo 2, I'm just going to use Diablo 2 as reference here because of course that's where I'm basing this system off of. If they just labeled your FCR and your FHR over here, I think that would take a lot of the bookkeeping out of it, right? Because you're not constantly adding it up like, oh, I've got 25 here and I've got 10 here and I've got 10 here and doing all this stuff. Instead, right, for this case, you just have, let's just make this bigger. And text, we'll just do text, 12. So you've got like angelic, demonic, and ancestral, right? And so I think literally just having these like this would actually make that a lot simpler. Because then you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I look at the item and this item right here has a bonus of like, you know, okay, if you hit 65 ancestral or something, let's just say. I know this is kind of a mess. So like this is like if you hit 65 ancestral, then you're good to go. So now you just kind of look over here and you're like, where am I at? And over here it's like you have 45. And then you swap your boots out with something in your inventory. And then it's like, congratulations, you have 65. So yeah, so I think this would make it a less tedious feature, right? I think this is the part, in my opinion, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but I think this is the part that they're kind of looking at and they're saying, hey, this is kind of tedious. Like, let's pretend this doesn't exist. Then it does become like we have in Diablo 2 where you're constantly like, wait, how much hit recovery and what's the break point on it and all of this. And you are kind of doing a little bit of bookkeeping, right? So just having, I think, this quick, easy stat sheet to see, and this could even be over in your stat screen, right? It doesn't have to be on your inventory. Could just be over here in the stat screen. Just having something simple like that, I think would make it a lot less tedious. But I still really do enjoy the idea of having those things and having those minor bonuses if you get a little bit more, blah, 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 whatever it is. Because, yeah, this is just, like they said, this is interesting gear and item decision making that I find really important in ARPGs. Whether it's D2, whether it's something like Titan Quest, whether it's whatever it is, right? If there are points that have different values, and for that I mean 65, 45, 35, right? What are these numbers? What am I saying here? This is all ancestral power, let's say, right? Let's actually change one of these to 70 because it'll make a little more sense. Is 70 ancestral power worth twice as much as 35? It depends what your gear is, honestly, right? Will you be utilizing 70 ancestral power? Or does 35 get you use of one cool bonus, 45 gets you use of another cool bonus, and then you don't have a third cool bonus until you have 80? And so 70 is actually worth less to you, but that next 10 becomes worth a lot more to you, right? Because then that'll get you to that next bonus that could be like a really sweet bonus. So the value of these powers changes depending on what the bonuses are all going to be. And so having scaling benefit to the amount of these things is really good. Once again, and I'm going to reference, I know people always hate on me in the comments. They're like, well, just make Diablo 2 again. I'm just referencing Diablo 2 because itemization, they did perfectly. in Diablo 2, 63 FCR for a sorceress and 37 FCR, right? These are like 2 breakpoints. Anything above 37 and below 63 literally has no difference in it. So if you're at 37, getting plus 10 isn't worth that much. If you're at 47, getting plus 10 is worth a little bit more because it gets you closer right next to that 63, but it's still not worth anything yet. Then the next 10 is worth a lot because that's going to push you to the next frame. Now, this isn't talking about frames exactly, but this is giving the idea of still bonuses based around your different powers, right? How much of each you're balancing, all of that. So, yeah. So my take would be just focus something like that. Give us a stat sheet, make it a little bit simpler there for seeing it, but still allow a lot of the complex decision making with the items. I hope that they don't stray too far from that. Anyways, all right, moving on. Legendary items. We are exploring some big changes in the space for 2 reasons. Good. We agree with the feedback that a character's power is currently too dependent on items. Yes, thank you. Please. We plan to put more of the player's power back into the character to make build choices more impactful.
Diablo 4 got real texty.
Wait, I thought I paused this. How did that play? Weird. We plan to put more of a player's power back in the character to make build choices more impactful, rather than have the majority of player power coming from the items they have equipped. Thank God. I mean, this was such a huge issue that we saw in Diablo 3. Like I said, I was doing a rift and my boots broke, and all of a sudden I couldn't do any damage to the boss, and it was like, because my boots broke? That's my classic example, right? I go back to it all the time because it was just like, huh? Thank you, by the way, Nomiko. That said, it's important that we strike the balance so itemization choices always feel meaningful. Exactly. I mean, you really do want to have good power for the character and good addition with the items so that they can have meaning for sure, but that a naked character could still play through the game very slowly, dying a lot, taking a lot of save, whatever stuff, right? Doing all sorts of weird whatever junk. But in my opinion, being able to play through a game with very minimal gear, not just because I'm a speedrunner, but with very minimal gear, allows for it's like a really good balance of like the character's power and then the items that then take it to the next level, right? So it gives the player a lot of room for, do I want very minimal or do I want very far, right? And spending a lot of time farming and taking this time through, as opposed to forced farming for the items because the items are necessary, or forcing the items to just be so strong that when you drop that they get you through whatever it is. We've also had very mixed team feedback regarding core itemization. We're currently looking at how to best differentiate our various item qualities. For example, should magic quality items have higher affix stats than rare items? You can expect more about our legendary items in our next blog. Diablo 2, this is it. Should magic quality items have higher stat affixes? I mean, that is literally exactly Diablo 2, and in the way of itemization, I think you can't go wrong stealing from Diablo 2, right? So here's some examples of affixes with Diablo 2. And you can see that, here, this will be a good example, right? Like, in terms of attack rating, let me open this a little bit more. Oh, wait, that was it. This way. You can see that, like, in terms of gaining attack rating, only magic weapons have the ability to get the weird affix, which gives more attack rating, right? Only magic jewels have the ability to get this. And that's one of those, I'm not saying they have to do it exactly this way, but I think that has a really good idea behind it, and something that I kind of hope that they look at and continue to look into. I mean, it sounds like they're already looking into it right there, right? How do you make every item meaningful, right? How do we make it so that a rare item can have meaning, and a magic item can have meaning, and a low tier unique can have meaning, and a high tier unique can have meaning, and white items and socketed items, and all of these can have purpose. And maybe it's not all the time, right? Like in Diablo 2, a lot of blues are garbage, but every now and then with just the perfect cool rolls, you can get something cool, right? So having that stuff, I think, is really important. And, you know, once again, maybe try and make it your own. Change it up so it doesn't have to be exactly magic has less affixes but higher affixes, right? I mean, obviously that does work, but maybe there's some other cool way to do it, right? Maybe like magic weapons attack a little bit faster or something. I don't know, right? Like you could do all sorts of weird things with the items themselves to just try different things, to just adjust them here and there and make different items have different meaning. And I think it really does improve a game, as opposed to everything below, you know, in the lower quality, it's just immediate garbage, right? Like when I play Diablo 3, I just salvage everything and it's just like bloop and it just all goes away, right? None of the magics, none of the rares, they don't matter. And so having those matter is such a crucial part. I love every time I'm magic finding in Diablo 2, picking up a rare druid helm and being like, ooh, come on, 5 tornado, you know, like finding a blue monarch and praying for a J mod. Like there's so many cool items. You can pray for 640s on your javelins, all sorts. There's so many cool items and bases, and, you know, looking for that perfect defense sacred armor and all sorts of stuff, right? So many really interesting items that you want to pick up. You pick up so many things there to look at those items specifically, not just for salvage materials or whatever it is. So I'm so excited for the items update, if you guys can't tell. So I love seeing this. I love that they're looking at this example right here, and that they're bringing the balance of characters back to the character more, and having the player just be a stronger hero individually as well. I think both of these are perfect feedback right there. Super happy to see what happens there. Okay, new skill system. Let's jump into the meat of it. As Luis mentioned, we have some major changes. We have made some major changes to Diablo 4's skill and talent systems. Good, because before they were kind of... We've been reading through a lot of the comments from the community and agree that the talent system needs more depth. Yep. Similarly, skill system progression felt too simple. Yep. Which created issues where a player would have no meaningful reason to spend their skill points. With this valuable feedback in mind, we have been iterating on a new skill system. As you can see from the screenshot below, we have separate sections for skills and passives in our freshly painted skill tree. Take a look. Okay, so let's... First off, this looks really cool. I'm just going to say that. I love the actual look of the tree. It's kind of dope looking. Okay, so... That being said, it's kind of confusing. Okay, so how is this branching off? Like, do I go here, 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 here? There, 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 there? You follow the branch, right? So... Scroll down and it explains it. Okay, let's do the scroll and read it, and then okay, here we go. The upper skill section is where you will spend the skill points that you earn by leveling up. Here you unlock brand new skills, unlock additional functionality for these skills, and unlock passive points that you can then spend on the lower passive section of the tree. The upper skill section is where you will spend the skill points you earn by leveling up. You unlock brand new skills, unlock additional functionality for these skills, and unlock passive points that you can spend on the lower passive section of the tree. Charge bolts. Release 6 bolts of land to parent, dealing 18 to 22 damage each. I like that these numbers aren't massive, by the way. I mean, they could obviously explode into craziness, but like, we're not starting out in the millions already, so it's nice. Ball lightning. Conjure a ball of lightning that moves forward, zapping enemies for 25 to 31 damage. You can spend skill points on square nodes to unlock new active skills for your characters. Okay. Charge bolts upgrade node. Charge bolts creates an additional bolt. Wait, you're only putting one skill into these? The heck? Okay. Ball lightning upgrade node. Ball lightning collapses into crackling energy at the end of its path. Spend points on circular upgrade nodes to enhance active skills that you've unlocked. As you explore the branches of a tree, you will find passive points. Okay. You can spend passive points in the roots of the tree to unlock powerful effects. Critical hit. Lightning damage has a 3% chance to create crackling energy. Crackling energy gives 25 mana when you move near it. It's interesting. The skill tree you see above consists of many specific nodes, a sample of which you can see in the screenshot above. If we imagine every single node on that massive skill tree affecting different skills in different ways, the path that you decide to take will determine big power increases and playstyle choices. The passive part of the system is where you'll find more general upgrades to your character. These effects are not specific to particular skills. Therefore, the skill tree will have a good mix of all types of different choices for players to make. One last thing we want to point out is that players will not be able to acquire every skill tree node, thank God. We're currently aiming for 30 to 40% of the nodes filled for end game, so that players can have very distinct and different ways they build out their character. Okay, first off, can we just like throw some love their way for this sentence right here? Praise the Lord, we're not doing the everybody gets everything and then you never have to build another character again. Thank you, Blizzard. Love this. Yeah, big love right there. Builds are real again. Love to see it.
You in hell.
Thank you, Herb. Appreciate that, bud. Hope you had a good stream. Builds are real. So that's so thank God. Okay, so the tree is interesting to me. So here, I'm gonna actually do more because it's bigger here, so I'm gonna zoom out some. Try and get a better view of this whole tree. More tree look. Okay, so the tree is interesting. So for instance, charge bolt is over here on this part of the tree, but upgrade to charge bolt is right here. There's the roots. So the roots seem pretty generic and linear, I'm not gonna lie. It seems like you get 3 paths and you kind of pick one of them. Passives feels like it needs some work for sure. Some addition. All right, maybe I'm crazy, but doesn't it feel... Hold up. I'm gonna... Can I not make this smaller? Maybe I'm crazy. But Doesn't this seem like it would make sense way more? Or like at least like a mastery or something. Like I don't know if every single skill needs exactly a tree like this. I mean, that would be amazingly sick and beautiful if they did that. But this feels still very linear and limiting. It's like they just took the linear piece and just spread kind of spread it around a tree. But like at least like this is like the cold tree. And then there's the fire tree, and then there's the lightning tree, and then there's the whatever tree. You know? And so you kind of start out. Let me get my paint. So like let's do a quick llama adjustment here. Oops. Right? You kind of like start out like that. Something. And then this like has its branches. And all of this is cold though. Right? And then like this right here. Maybe these even connect or something. Who knows? And then this bad boy runs, you know, blah, 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 whatever, right? Like, that feels like more of a compromise of something. And obviously you could mix and match and do some stuff and whatever, because even that might be a little bit too specifically linear of a specific skill. But maybe it's not. Maybe like these sorts of skills over here are like your AoE frost, right? And then these skills are like your single target, like, you know, freeze. And then these skills over here are your, you know, your defensive, like cold defense or something. Something like that, right? And so like you can invest heavily into your AoE frost tree. You can invest heavily into your freeze tree. You can invest heavily into your cold defense, whatever you want. Something like that. And then you have like your fire tree, your poison tree, your light tree, your whatever other trees as well. And sure, there could be obviously potential synergies with things cross tree and stuff if you'd like, or you can, there's plenty that you can do. But I just think this would be like a way cooler way to add more decision and complexity to the tree. I guess the current tree to me feels like it has a lot of potential. It's way better than the previous tree. Much better than the previous tree, but it still feels like there's not enough on it. You know? Like it's very, there's really not a lot on this tree, it feels like. I mean, how many skills are there for every? Here, let's open up the paint again. So we have our beautiful idea. I'm gonna save this. Save as new tree. Okay. Oh, I can't reverse all of it? Okay, copy image, paste. All right, so we're back to our tree. So like, let's do some counting here. So we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Am I missing a lightning one? No. So there's 8, 7, 7 in terms of skills. I mean, I guess. I missed a lightning in the middle. Okay, so it's 8 of each. I don't know. It still feels kind of. I just feel like there more depth would be really great here, because all of the like nodes that upgrade stuff are gonna be behind like these skills, well, essentially. So it feels like if I can fill in 30 to 40% of this tree, I can get like the entirety of all of the lightning if I wanted, and hit every single passive in lightning, right? And then I have every single thing in lightning, and then I can also do like half of fire or something, you know? Or I can just hit like every passive. All right, we're already getting that passive and that passive. And that passive. Then we get this passive. We get this passive. We go up there and get these two passives. We get that passive. And I'm only missing 1, 2 passives. And I've got the entire light tree. And that's probably about 30 to 40%. I guess I'm not getting these two right in here. So I don't know. I guess I'm just looking for more, a little bit more. Well, these passives are the roots. That's what these are. Every time you get one of these, you can put it down here. That's what I'm pretty sure it said. Every time you access a passive up top, you then get to place it down bottom. So it's interesting. The idea of only having a single, I guess where my mind really comes is right now, like what I'm looking at right now, we have a single skill. So I go here and I get whatever this skill is, electric ball. And now I just have electric ball. It said rank 1 out of 3 on the charge bolt. Did it? Ooh, let's go take a look at that actually. I do not see rank 1 out of 3. That just says charged bolts. I see nothing about an additional rank here. Further down, upgrade charge bolts. That's on the passive. I'm saying on a skill, I'm investing 1 point into a skill. And now I just have that skill, and that skill is just Gucci. So I kind of, I kind of like the idea of investing options to invest more, or if you're going to do that, where it's just one skill that you invest into it, and you get that skill, right? We made that investment, and so now we get this skill. Have more branches for it. And that's where my idea of Nutri comes in. Okay, I get, Frost Nova down here, whatever this skill is. But now I have a ton of different ways that I can play with Frost Nova. Right, all of the tree. So yeah, give me more ways to modify this skill, even more so out here. And have this also, of course, linked to, the other cold skills, right? So you're going to take this guy and you're going to, you're going to move that over here, and you're going to take this one and you're going to move it, over here, and right. So you do like all of whatever stuff. This guy is going up here, right? This is the cold tree. So I think that would be better. I don't know. The 1 point wonder piece, I agree. I'm a little bit iffy on the 1 point wonder. But in the event that you want to give us the 1 point wonders, make it so there's a lot of the alternates, right? A lot of the other options, because that's something I think can be really important. If you have a skill that's not a 1 point wonder, you're constantly making the decision of, do I want to invest a full 10 points into it, 5 points, 7 points, right? What's the right amount of points that I want to invest into this? And if you're putting it at 1 point or one skill, then you want to have so much variety that you're really making those decisions and picking, where you want to go with it. But I really like even just small upgrades, I'm thinking of like Titan Quest. I've been playing a little bit of Titan Quest, and the skill tree in that is really interesting. It's very similar to Grim Dawn for people who know Grim Dawn. The skill tree in that is very interesting because you're deciding, how do I want to invest these points? I can put up to 6 points into this skill, and up to 3 points into this skill, and up to 8 points in this. And so, you're kind of deciding, do I max this? Do I just get 1 point so I can have it for a base? Do I, put more points to try and unlock more skills? So, I feel like with this tree, that depth isn't quite there. It's still better than it was before. Before it was very linear and very just, you get everything. So I definitely want to clarify and say, like, I love this. This is better for sure. But I still feel it's still, I don't want to say like too casual, but it could just use additional, just more to it. Either more in each individual skill or more in all of the branches. And maybe, like I say, have the 3 trees or 4 trees or 2 trees or whatever it is. So yeah, just increasing, but they're on the right track with it in my mind. This is a step up already from what we saw before. I think this could be interesting right here. And once again, I love the look of the tree. Super cool looking. So, yeah, we'll see where they go with that. Grubby with a massive host. How's it going, my friend? Thank you so much. Mwah. All right, we can move past it. I feel like we've talked enough on that specific piece, so let's move into more text. Welcome, everybody. We are going through Diablo 4's patch notes, or updates, I should say. Okay, so yeah, and then they're doing this, so I'm like super happy with that. Sorceress enchantment system. Many of you might remember the Barbarian's unique arsenal system. Yep, their ability to carry and smoothly swap between multiple deadly weapons, which greatly increases their power. We've also been exploring unique class mechanics for our other classes. The main goal for us here is to have very unique class-specific mechanics in Diablo 4. We have this goal because Diablo is the kind of game where many players try out different builds or classes, especially during seasonal play. Agree. I want each unique class to be very different. We believe that unique class mechanics with very different strengths and playstyles compared to other classes will make exploring the different classes and playing the game much more fun. I think this is really key and something that doesn't just need to be brought back to Diablo, but brought back to ARPGs in general, right? Like having classes function differently and be balanced differently even is very critical to the enjoyability of playing different classes. that's something that I think we've lost in many RPGs today, is that so many of them, it just doesn't feel different enough playing my melee character to my, range character to my spellcast character, whatever it is. If they feel too similar, if it feels like they clear mobs in the same way and do all of this stuff in the same way, it's just like boring. And it might be more balanced, but then you never have like a huge desire to go like really try out a bunch of different classes. And that's fine if other people disagree. That's fine. I'll fight Riker on that. So, for the sorceress, we've been trying out the enchantment system. This is how it works. Conjure ball and crackling. Okay, yep. So there's that thing. The ball lightning skill, each sorceress has 2 possible effects. Sorceress skills can be placed into 2 locations: an active skill that every other class also has access to, and an enchantment slot. If you place a skill in the enchantment slot, you can no longer use it as an active skill, but your character instead gains a secondary bonus power. Okay. So those are these 3 right here. Okay, yeah, these are the enchantment slots. The power you gain from enchantments is extremely significant, and you can currently make builds based around your enchantments, your active skills, or a mix of both. Here's an example of the system. Using the meteor skill. Meteor allows you to call a fiery chunk of rock from the sky. If you choose to slot it as an enchantment, you won't be able to control your meteors, but they fall onto enemies periodically. This skill is still under development and may be different in the final game. I mean, those meteors look pretty baller. I'm not going to lie. So you either cast right there, or you're just fighting and it's dropping on its own. Huh. Okay. It's interesting. We've been testing this class mechanic for a while. The team feedback's been really positive. The new system empowers you to make some interesting choices to strategize around which skills you want to slot in as an enchantment, as you won't be able to put one skill in both places. We're exploring a Druid-specific class mechanic as well, and we'll have more information on that to share in the future. That's interesting. I think that's. I like the idea, once again, of every class having a unique thing. And so if sorcerers get the unique thing of the enchantment, barbarians get the arsenal, yada, yada, yada. Druids get their own special thing as well. I think that's a really cool idea. The more you can do something like this, the better. And I love that, it's like you pick here or here for active or non, and you can build around each. Once again, opens up more build variety. Very interesting. All right, game progression system. Lastly, we have been hard at work on our end game character progression system. This important feature is going to take a little more time. It won't be in the next blog, but we wanted to mention it here because it will be the other significant source of power that comes from your class. This system is intended to provide more depth and replayability than what Paragon currently offers in Diablo 3. Yay! We and many Blizzard gamers have talked about the concept of easy to learn, difficult to master. We believe that the endgame progression system is where the difficult to master component will come in and should meet the expectations of the most hardcore Diablo players out there. Good. We're excited to read through the feedback from the community regarding our revamped skill and talent system, as well as our new sorceress enchantment system. We are always reading through the comments on our forums, Reddit, social media, and more for your feedback. As always, please remember that none of this is final, as the game is still actively in development. Your constructive discussions around these features will help Diablo 4's development the most, and we greatly appreciate all your continued support and discussion related to the game. We will see you all in our next quarterly update as we dive deeper into some of the itemization changes that we have coming. Thanks again, David Kim. Okay, so let's talk, I guess, really quickly about endgame progression pieces. Yeah, easy to learn, difficult to master, I think is great, right? This is something that David Brevik also talked about before. He said, I want my mom to be able to pick this up and play it. And I think that's almost very true. You want someone to be able to pick up the game, go in there, and start hitting things and get some basic items and potions and cool. And then they'll die some, whatever, but like a basic newbie can go in, and it doesn't mean the early game needs to be you can't die, right? Rakinishu is in the Stony Field. That's very early, and he'll just murder you. But still the idea of the game is simple, right? You can open up, you can very quickly and intuitively go, okay, I understand that a skill point goes into a skill and I can then use said skill. I think that's what we mean for easy to learn. Difficult to master, this is where I think increasing combination with this tree, making that stuff harder to master, and then really with endgame, not just having grindy power creep, but more skill pieces brought in will be something that could be really important with this. And one thing that I would definitely say when I look at, like, let's use like Path of Exile a little bit for example here. Lots of fantastic boss fights that are, you know, pretty difficult for sure in Path of Exile and can be very interesting and very fun to play. But the other combat is not very fun. It's very monotonous and all the same and whatever, right? And so that's where I think, you know, like stealing boss fights from PoE and then increasing difficulty of regular monsters in that end game and difficult parts later, I think would be really, really cool and really interesting to see play out, right? And so just look at those pieces and say, man, like, how does somebody progress through this late game content and make the whole thing this challenge and everything, you know, challenging in its own way and whatnot. And obviously gear like helps it, but yeah, dynamic fighting in the normal game. I think that's a great way to put it. Dynamic fighting in the normal game is something that I'm going to like ask the developers to really consider when looking at this, you know, and whatnot. So that is my request for the end game. Obviously, we don't have live information, but please keep good combat in the game throughout and make it be so that every character is fighting differently and approaching scenarios differently and all of that. Okay, all in all, let's do some quick review. Let's do a quick review. So first things first, items, it looks like have some cool stuff going in the right direction. We talked about these powers. I still like the idea of them and like the idea of having to balance and do some bookkeeping, but just give us a little more information. I think that'll help that. Love the idea of looking at, you know, rare items and magic items being useful still in the game. And I would urge the developers to go back and play Diablo 2 1.0. Diablo 2 Classic. Diablo to go back to the and 1.0 especially. But like, it's a much slower game, but the importance of every item that you find is really interesting. And you're using all sorts of really crazy things. You know, you're like, oh man, this ring has 6% mana stolen per hit. There's no mana potions I can buy, so this is amazing now for my build. And so instead of this rare ring that's like 20 to life and 5 to strength and some attack rating, whatever, I'm using the mana leech ring because for my build, I need more mana from my shots. So like, you know, like really interesting things going on in those. And you're just balancing, you know, you're not getting many set and uniques. I guess you gamble them. But, you know, you're doing a lot of balance with just your items and the blues and yellows. So I would highly recommend that if you're looking for like cool examples of really interesting, less rare items. Skill tree, definitely a step up. I still think it can go further, right? I still think you can go deeper with this without going to like Path of Exile levels of deep where people open it up and are like, what is all of this? You know, I think having like 3 of these trees could be fantastic enough, or 2 even if you want. I mean, I'd probably go 3 because you got cold, fire, light right here. So you do like 1 of each of these, but yeah, we don't know everything about how this tree works and links and stuff, but I still feel like it doesn't have enough complexity. I feel like you could do put a skill in the middle and have each skill have something like this, and that would be amazing. But maybe that's going to the too complex level. So, who knows, right? Every time you invest a point in Charge Bolt, you then get to go to the Charge Bolt tree and pick the path you want your Charge Bolt to follow. That would be dope and amazing, but that is a lot of complexity. So I think the Masteries piece that I drew out maybe is a better, simpler addition that could be really cool. I don't know. That's my personal piece on that. I like that we're seeing smaller damage right now, at least. I hope that keeps up. I still kind of wish we had like a font change. I know that's a really like nitpicky thing, but I don't know. Maybe like colors and fonts. I don't know. It feels a little not as like gothic, I guess. Like you have this gruesome tree and all of this, and then it's like charged bolts. Major destruction. I mean, I guess this is a Diablo font, but I don't know. Something is off with the look. Once again, that's small and nitpicky. It's not going to deter me from playing the game. But I think it could look like these colors and this font could look a little bit cooler maybe. Just lacking some sharpness. Yeah, something like that. Make it a little more edgy. All right. Passive stuff seems cool, but obviously I'd also like more in the passives. The enchantment stuff seems great. I have no complaints about that. I love the idea right there that you say unique stuff. The only piece I can really say here is don't worry too much about everything being perfectly balanced. And once again, I'm willing to fight other people on this. I look to so many different games and characters that exist, and I love the idea of there being different experiences from each character and different balance points and different strengths at different times in the game. So for instance, the Barbarian is pretty weak in the early game and the mid game, and once he gets really good gear, he becomes very strong, and in the end game, he is actually the fastest magic finding character in the game due to his find item skill. So it's kind of this really cool transition or progression of the character from like struggles, has to do like all this kiting and worrying about attack rating and fighting, and it's really hard in the early stages, to the fastest magic finding character in the end of the game. And then you've got your more like frail characters like your sorceress that are all like power based from their character and all of that. And then you have, characters like Amazon and, that are like a little bit stronger there and, rely more on their summons and are, or their Valkyrie if they're the Necro with the summons. And they just really, every class, when I think of like D2, obviously, because I love D2, has a very different play style. And one character that goes to the Chaos Sanctuary and has no issues has massive issues in the Glacial Trail and the Crystalline Passage. And another character that suffers in the Chaos so much can just zoom through those areas. So like having different areas, I think for each character to struggle and be strong in really also adds a lot of importance. And this is where having things like map sizes changing, Maggot Lair being tiny, and Arcane Sanctuary having stairs and things like that, versus, the Chaos Sanctuary being really open, having monsters that have immunities, and maybe we don't bring immunities back, but we bring like high resistance back so that, certain characters have to like dodge certain kinds of mobs. Because that's one other thing that I want to throw in terms of like balance and discussion and difficult endgame is let's bring back monsters being frightening on their own and having like unique monster properties. So an Oblivion Knight versus a Doll versus a Lightning Soul versus a Death Lord versus a Pit Spawn, right? Every one of those I want to fight differently based on the properties of that monster, the resistances of that monster, how that monster attacks me or curses me or whatever they do, explodes on death, right? Every single one of those is so unique and has such a unique experience to that. And I think that's something that really kind of gets lost in some of these newer ARPGs. And that is really like, that brings in that unique class mechanic with different play styles. Because how I face a soul as a barbarian with, you know, really high resistances, because I put into natural resistance and massive life from battle lords and all this, is very different from how I face it on an Amazon who deals lightning damage and can't hit souls because souls are lightning immune. And so I need to get a lower res wand to deal with them and stay away. Is very different from how I deal with them as a paladin, right? Like, every class, I'm facing every one of these monsters differently. And so I really hope that we bring back all of those normal monsters with various degrees of res and difficulty and style and whatnot. And that will help this even more, the unique class playthrough. And yeah, that piece is cool. And then endgame, I'm excited to see what they say. And my only note there is, don't forget the campaign as well, right? Let's make the campaign also really cool. And not just something where you go boom, 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 and you're done through it. Because I like single player stuff. So, all in all, rating of the update, 8.5, 9 out of 10. Very good update. I don't know, some people at the start were like, oh, it's nothing. This is a really strong update, in my opinion. The words that we're seeing them say, right? The stuff we're seeing them say, should we make magic quality items have higher affix stats than rare items? Them introducing a new tree, which, while not perfect, has a much better look and progression than the previous tree. The enchants are really cool. They're shaping up with a lot of good stuff here. Hats off to the devs right there. I tip my fedora to the devs for just really nailing it. So very impressed. I think this is very solid, and with a little more work there, can get to that awesome point. Yeah. D4.